Daddy's Fables, Eric and the Adventure with Bobby in the Age of Dinosaurs. It was a bright Saturday morning when Eric, a cheerful little boy, woke up with a smile on his face. Today was perfect. No school, no homework, nothing to rush for. He jumped out of bed, pulled his favorite blanket close, and looked around for his most beloved thing in the world, Bobby, his dinosaur plush toy. Bobby was a green Tyrannosaurus Rex plushie, just the right size for hugging. With big round eyes and a gentle-looking grin, Bobby had been Eric's best friend for as long as he could remember. They ate together, played together, and Bobby even sat beside the tub while Eric took his baths. Every night, Bobby was tucked into bed right next to him. But not today. Bobby, Eric called softly, scanning the bed. He looked under the blankets, under the bed, on his desk, nothing. He ran into the living room, peeked under the couch, behind the TV, even inside the laundry basket, still nothing. "Mom, Mom, have you seen Bobby?" he shouted. His mom shook her head, a little puzzled. "You mean your green dino toy?" "No, sweetheart, I haven't seen him. Did you check the backyard?" Eric rushed out to the backyard, to the spot under the big tree where he and Bobby used to pretend they were in the dinosaur age, fighting off raptors, running with stegosauruses, hiding from triceratops. But the yard was quiet. The wind blew gently, still no Bobby. The whole day passed in sadness. Eric searched every corner of the house but Bobby was nowhere to be found. That night, he sat on the edge of his bed, hugging his pillow, tears welling up in his eyes. "Where are you, Bobby?" he whispered, slowly drifting to sleep. Then something strange happened. The air grew cold, the ground trembled just slightly. There was a deep rumbling in the distance, like giant footsteps getting closer. When Eric opened his eyes, he wasn't in his room anymore. He was in a dense prehistoric jungle, surrounded by towering trees and unfamiliar sounds. The sunlight came in slants through the thick leaves, and the air smelled wild and ancient. "Where am I?" Eric mumbled, stunned. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed nearby. He turned toward the sound, and froze. 3 velociraptors were slinking through the foliage, sniffing the air. Their eyes gleamed, sharp and hungry. One of them spotted him. "Oh no," Eric whispered. And then, he ran. The raptors screeched and bolted after him, claws clicking and jaws snapping. Eric ran with all his might, heart pounding, legs burning. But he was just a little boy, and the raptors were fast, terrifyingly fast. Then, a massive shadow fell over him. There was a deafening roar, deep, thunderous. And suddenly, Eric was lifted off the ground, scooped up into the air by enormous jaws. He was being carried, away from the raptors. When the creature finally set him down on the soft grass far away, Eric turned and looked up. It was a real Tyrannosaurus Rex, green and enormous. Eric stared, breathless. Bobby. The T-Rex blinked, then lowered its head gently. It was Bobby, not a plush toy, but real. Eric stood frozen, staring at the massive dinosaur in front of him. Though Bobby was now a giant, living, breathing T-Rex, his eyes were the same, kind, warm, and somehow familiar. "You saved me," Eric said softly. Bobby made a deep, soft growling noise and gently nudged him with his snout, as if to say, "I've got you." Before Eric could say more, a loud crash erupted behind them. A triceratops burst out of the trees, roaring and charging directly at Eric. "Not again," Eric cried, but Bobby was faster. The T-Rex stepped in front of the boy, let out a thunderous roar, and stood tall to block the triceratops. The two prehistoric giants locked eyes. Then, after a tense pause, the triceratops grunted and backed away, disappearing into the forest. Eric let out a shaky breath. "That's twice you've saved me now." Bobby gave a soft rumble, lowering his head once more. The two of them began walking together through the forest, Bobby leading, Eric following close behind or sometimes riding on his back when the terrain was too rough. Eric saw wonders he had never dreamed of, stegosauruses grazing peacefully, flying reptiles soaring through the sky, and gigantic dragonflies buzzing through the air. "Is this really your home, Bobby? Have you always been here?" Eric asked. Bobby looked up at the sky but didn't answer. He kept walking. As the sun began to set, the jungle turned golden orange. Bobby led Eric up a hill to a rocky cliff with a wide view of the valley below. A cool wind rustled the trees. In the distance, a volcano glowed faintly with lava. Bobby settled down on a flat spot of stone in front of a small cave. Eric climbed up on his back and snuggled against the warm scales. He looked up at the darkening sky. Bobby, is this a dream? If it is, I don't want to wake up. I want to stay here, in the dinosaur world, with you. Bobby didn't answer. He simply closed his eyes and breathed calmly, his giant body rising and falling like the ocean. That night, Eric slept soundly on Bobby's back, under a sky filled with stars that hadn't been seen for millions of years. The next morning, a gentle breeze stirred the trees. Birds with strange crests chirped overhead. Eric slowly opened his eyes. He was still lying on Bobby's back, feeling warm and safe. He stretched and sat up, taking in the breathtaking view, layers of mist covering the jungle below, glowing in the sunrise. I'm still here, he whispered. This is real. Bobby blinked slowly and nudged him with his nose, then turned toward the sun. Eric smiled. I wish I could stay here forever. We'd have so many more adventures. But suddenly, Eric felt strange. His body was getting lighter. The sounds around him faded, as though someone had turned down the volume of the world. The forest blurred. Wait, no, Bobby, Eric called out, panicked. I'm not ready to leave yet. Light filled his vision, then, darkness. When Eric opened his eyes again, he was back in his room. In his bed, his heart raced. He sat up and looked around wildly. Was it all just a dream? He pulled his blanket aside, and there, sitting quietly next to him, was his green T-Rex plushie. Bobby, Eric gasped and hugged him tightly. Tears welled up in his eyes. You're back, or maybe, I'm back. He held Bobby for a long while, then went to sit by the window with him in his arms. Morning sunlight streamed in gently. Outside, the world was normal again. But in his heart, Eric knew the truth. What he and Bobby shared, the love, the courage, the friendship, was all real. And he would carry that memory with him, always. Subscribe to Daddy's Fables channel for creative storytelling. Enjoy classic tales with modern twists and new stories that inspire all ages. Don't miss out. Subscribe today.